Really quick, if you haven't seen my episode from early this morning, make sure you check it out because this new commander is all about, well, cute and deadly rabbits. That's right, rabbits. But don't leave just yet because on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a very spicy commander. I mean, this thing is just, well, you're going to have to see it to believe it. So let's jump into it. First up, a big thank you to MTG Goldfish for the translated version of this card. So Minthara, Ruthless Soul is a 2/2 elf cleric that costs 2 white and a black, and it has Ward X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, you get an experience counter. And creatures you control get +1/+0 for each experience counter you have. That's right, experience counters are back and in a big way with this commander. Now, building up your experience counters, of course, not only protects your commander, again, Ward X essentially means that an opponent would have to pay X mana in order to actually target your commander with either a spell or ability. So, yeah, if you can get that even just up to, say, even 3, that makes it incredibly hard for opponents to actually target your commander. And, of course, with this commander, you can easily get that number well above that, where essentially your commander basically just has hexproof. But of course, on top of that, and more importantly, with those experience counters, you are going to be pumping your entire team a ton. And again, to get those experience counters, all you have to do is get something that you have to leave play on your turn. And of course, in these colors, that is incredibly easy to do. I mean, keep in mind, there's a couple ways we can go about this. I mean, first up, it does not specify, whenever a permanent you control hits the graveyard. It's just whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield. So, yeah, I mean, blinking, flickering, make sure you consider those because those definitely, meet that requirement. You just blink something, cool. All right, I met the requirement, end step, experience counter, thank you. But of course, in these colors, yeah, there are plenty of, aristocrat-style benefits. So, sacrificing permanents and getting them into your graveyard can benefit you in more ways than just one. And yeah, one of those ways is that end step trigger. Obviously, keep in mind there is that limitation, though. This is just for your end step, so you need something to leave play on your turn to get this trigger, okay? That being said, yeah, there's a lot of spicy and powerful things that we can do with this commander and ways to take even more advantage of those experience counters. So, before we jump into the cards that work well with this commander, a quick note that in the description below, there is a link to the list of these cards that I'm going to be talking about on this episode because, well, when a new commander is spoiled, sometimes cards that work well with it tend to go up in price. So if you're looking to build around this commander, maybe pick up some of those cards sooner rather than later. And now with all that said, let's jump into it. So, actually, some of the first cards that came to my mind again, because this commander just specifies, any permanent leaving the battlefield. It doesn't have to be, a creature or an artifact, anything. It can be anything. So a land like, Evolving Wilds, Obscure Storefront, or Esper Panorama can be fantastic with this commander. Evolving Wild simply says, tap, sacrifice a central library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. So this is very minimum effort. Again, this essentially is just a way to, go fix your mana. You go get either, a plains or a swamp, whatever you need in the situation that you're in. And this meets that requirement for that experience counter without you having to do anything else. You just play the land for the turn. Obviously, the same can be said from the fantastic Obscura Storefront, a brand new land from Streets of New Capenna. Whenever it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic plains, island, or swamp card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle, and you gain 1 life. So, again, essentially the exact same thing as Evolving Wilds, but you also gain a life, so cool. And then Esper Panorama works a little differently. You can tap it for a color, so you can keep it in play, or by paying 1 and tapping and sacrificing it, you can go get a plains or a swamp. And put that on the battlefield tap, so yeah, I mean, again, just another great way to help you fix your mana, and also to meet that requirement and get that trigger for your end step. And actually, of course, these lands work very well with a card I'm going to highlight next with Felidar Retreat. It's an enchantment with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. So this can benefit us, obviously, in multiple ways. First up, yeah, by getting creature tokens into play, that's just great fodder to be able to sacrifice with other things to be able to meet that requirement if we need to do it in that way. Also, though, when we are building up those experience counters, our creature tokens are going to get absolutely massive. Again, with just, 3 experience counters as an example, instead of those 2/2 cats being, just with 2 power, they now have 5 power being 5 2s. Just for a land coming into play. And again, for an Evolving Wilds or something like that, that is 2 of them if we choose that twice, and that's 10 power. And that's just, again, a very, small example of the potential for this commander. And of course, on top of that, again, in that second option, we could just, put counters on all of our creatures and give them vigilance so we can swing out and still have blockers back as well. Moving on though, Court of Grace is another great token generator for this deck. It has when it enters battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying. If you're the Monarch, create a 4/4 white angel creature with flying instead. Adding the Monarch into the swing of things can really generate a lot of card advantage throughout the game. And yeah, I mean, 1/1 flyers are great, and they're going to hit hard still again because of our experience counters. But yeah, 4/4 angels are slightly better, so if we keep the Monarch, great. And of course, speaking of 1/1 flyers, a very expensive card that I'm just going to mention really quick, Bitter Blossom. Sure, if you've got the budget for it, yeah, great with this commander. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and you get a 1/1 black fairy creature token with flying. Yes, I mean, this is a fantastic card in a lot of decks. It's very expensive, but yeah, just want to mention it quickly. And of course, outside of creating tokens, there are plenty of other ways in these colors to actually generate value from creatures. With something like a reassembling skeleton, I mean, this can just keep coming back again and again and again. By paying 1 in a black, you return from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So if we've got a way to keep sacrificing this for value, great. Then we can keep getting value, of course, on top of getting that experience counter as well. And of course, in these colors, we've got plenty of fantastic sacrifice outlets, like, Hidden Stockpile is a good example. It has, at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token, and by paying 1, we sacrifice a creature to scry 1. So this is another end step trigger that we can benefit from that permanent leaving the battlefield. It essentially can guarantee that we can just keep getting more and more creatures, and again, it can be a great sacrifice outlet. It is not free, but again, it is a way to sacrifice creatures cheaply for some card selection with that scry. Now, speaking of a free sacrifice outlet, and one that is really expensive, but one I want to highlight quickly because it works in 2 ways for this deck, is Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth has pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. So obviously this is fantastic in multiple ways. Sacrificing creatures, paying 1 life for 1 card, that is a deal I will make any day of the week. And yeah, you can also put -1/-1 counters on opponent's creatures, which is also a big thing as well, because the second part of this card is pay black, discard a card, proliferate, which is incredible with this commander because guess what? You can proliferate experience counters. So, although we are essentially just limited to 1 experience counter with our commander on our turn, by proliferating, we can get around that and keep getting more and more experience counters throughout the game. This can really speed things up, and of course, again, like I mentioned, Yawgmoth is a good example of a card that's great for this deck, but it is expensive, but of course, there are plenty of other great proliferate cards. Like, Throne of Geth, Great Proliferation, and Karn's Bastion, which just got a reprint, to name a few. Throne of Geth has tap, sacrifice, an artifact, proliferate. So obviously this helps out in multiple ways by, being a great sacrifice outlet for this deck that we can just keep doing on our turn to get that trigger from our commander. And of course, on top of that, letting us proliferate. So essentially, each time we're tapping this to sacrifice an artifact, we are getting 2 experience counters. And then Great Proliferation is a 1/1 flyer, which again can dish out a lot of damage with this commander because of that pump. It also has one of those combinations to a player or planeswalker, proliferate. And then Karn's Bastion can tap for a color, so we can pay 4 and tap it to proliferate. So yeah, just another great repeatable proliferate effect for this deck, and it's not even taking up a slot in this deck really as a land. But of course, there are other great proliferate effects, and I would lean decently heavily into proliferate because, again, you are limited to just 1 experience counter from your commander, unless you've got like Seronic Resonator to double that trigger up. But with proliferating, you can really sidestep those limitations and get a ton of experience counters very quickly to protect your commander with that ward, and, also to pump your army to an absurd amount. Now, keep in mind that outside of creature tokens, we can also consider other tokens as well, especially ones that we can actually sacrifice with things like, clue tokens. Their investigation says, whenever you attack, investigate, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon. Yeah, this deck can definitely benefit from being pretty aggressive again by attacking and, sending our creature into danger. That actually might be a good thing. If our opponent decides to block, cool. And, that creature might die and then we get an experience counter, great. Or, if we have some evasive creatures, obviously, we can be very aggressive with those too. But yeah, attacking is definitely something we're going to want to do, and sacrificing clues just gives us extra value on top of the experience counter we're going to get. On the other hand, if players are attacking us while search the premises, it can really help us out as well. It says whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate. So this can actually make us a ton of clues in the right situation, and yeah, just a good amount of value throughout the game. And of course, I have to mention, if you're talking about treasure tokens, really quick, Smothering Tithe, very expensive card, very good, yes. Basically, if the opponent doesn't pay 2 and they draw a card, you get a treasure. Cool, awesome. Just make sure you keep one of those treasures for your turn so you can sacrifice that to get your commander's trigger. And finally, one other kind of thing that you might want to consider is a way to protect your commander even further because, yeah, Ward is fantastic for protecting your commander from targeted removal, but a board wipe can still deal with it, so maybe something like Daring Fiendbonder can be great in this deck. It's a 5/1 with haste and attacks each combat Fable, so this is going to be very aggressive. It can hit incredibly hard, especially with that pump from your commander, and yeah, your opponents are going to have to block it at some point. Or, you know, you can just sacrifice it if you really need to, because, yeah, when it's in your graveyard, you can pay 1 in a black and exile it, and you can put an indestructible counter on target creature. So, yeah, for 2 mana, give your commander indestructible permanently. Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Now, board wipes, you know, I mean, there's still some board wipes that can take it out, but a lot can't. And again, with Ward, it's going to be very difficult for your opponents to ever take out your commander, which is huge. And of course, outside of this, you know, there are definitely more expensive ways to give your commander indestructible, like, you know, Dark Steel Plate, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, this is definitely one I wanted to highlight because it works very well with your commander on a couple different axes. But yeah, at the end of the day, a very spicy uncommon commander. I mean, I did not expect to see experience counters come back in this set. And yeah, you benefit a ton from those experience counters. It's very easy for you to get them. Very easy for you to get even more of them with proliferating. And again, that ward can just get to a point where it's nearly impossible to take out your commander. And also, your army can just become impossibly large with all those experience counters as well. So, make a lot of tokens, swing out, have fun, and take out your opponents. And of course, as a reminder, if you're excited about this commander and might want to build around it, consider checking out that link in the description below and picking up some of those cards, because again, when a new commander comes out, sometimes prices that, you know, of cards that work well with the commander tend to go up. And also make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for even more exciting spoilers and quick takes. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.